You ever notice how some people just disappear for a while? Not because they're sad, not because they're angry, but because they've found peace in being alone. While the world scrolls, shouts, and scrambles for attention, they sit quietly, recharging in silence, building something invisible but powerful, inner strength. Society doesn't really get people like that. They're called distant, cold, maybe even antisocial. But in truth, they might just be the calmest, most grounded minds among us. Because people who love being alone aren't running from the world, they're returning to themselves. They don't escape silence, they understand it. They don't chase validation, they create clarity. And in a world that moves faster than thought, that kind of peace might be the rarest superpower there is. So, in this video, we're diving deep into the psychology of people who love being alone, why solitude attracts strong minds, what science says about it, and how learning this might just change how you see yourself and everyone around you. This isn't about being an introvert. It's about building the kind of inner world that no noise can shake. Let's start with something honest. Most of us grow up believing that happiness equals connection. That, being social, surrounded constantly on means we're doing life right. We were told that silence is awkward, that alone time is suspicious, that sitting by yourself at lunch is something to be fixed. And so, we fill every quiet second with notifications, voices, background music, and constant chatter, as if silence itself has become an enemy. But here's the paradox. The people who dare to be alone, not lonely, often report higher self-awareness, stronger creativity, and deeper focus. Because solitude is not a void, it's a space, a laboratory of the mind. Psychologists call this constructive solitude time spent alone that leads to insight, reflection, and emotional regulation. It's not withdrawal, it's calibration. Think about it. Every great thinker, creator, or innovator, from Newton under the apple tree, to Da Vinci sketching by candlelight, to modern scientists, artists, and philosophers, all spent immense amounts of time in solitude. Not because they hated people, but because solitude is where you hear the quietest, truest voice of your own. And yet most people fear it, because when you're alone, there's nowhere to hide from your thoughts. Your distractions disappear, the noise fades, and what's left is the raw material of your own mind, unfiltered, uncensored, and often uncomfortable. But those who learn to love that state, to stay there long enough to understand it, begin to master something most never do: self-awareness without external feedback. That's the starting point of the psychology of people who love being alone. They aren't detached from life, they're deeply tuned into it, just not in the way the crowd expects. Let's look beneath the surface. What really drives people who love being alone? It's not shyness, it's not social anxiety, it's self-regulation. Self-regulation is the ability to manage your emotions, thoughts, and behaviors, even when no one's watching. People who enjoy solitude often score high in this trait. They don't need external stimulation to feel alive. They generate meaning internally. When they read, they don't just consume, they reflect. When they work, they don't just perform, they align. When they rest, they don't just stop, they restore. It's a subtle but powerful difference. Let's call it the shift from external validation to internal orientation. Most people live in feedback loops, constantly measuring their worth through likes, praise, or reaction. But solitude breaks that loop. It forces the mind to stop asking, "What do others think?" and start asking, "Oh, what do I think?" That question, simple, quiet, almost invisible, becomes a doorway. Because the moment you stop living to be seen, you start living to see. You notice patterns. You think longer before reacting. You make choices that align with your values, not your fears. This is why solitude often feels so refreshing to deep thinkers. It's not that they dislike people, it's that they need space to process what most people never pause to notice. They live with an inner observer, a part of the mind that watches thoughts like clouds, emotions like tides, behavior like wind. This self-observation leads to metacognition, thinking about thinking. When practiced, metacognition turns solitude into a teacher. You start realizing how your emotions move, how desires form, how biases sneak in, and how peace disappears when the world gets too loud. The irony? People who love solitude are often the ones most capable of empathy, because they've spent time understanding their own inner landscape. By being alone, they learn the patterns that govern all minds. So the shift is this: solitude isn't escape, It's education. It's where you learn the architecture of your own consciousness. And once you understand it, you navigate life with a quiet confidence that doesn't need to shout. Let's break down the 5 psychological pillars that explain why people who love being alone often develop deeper emotional intelligence, focus, and strength. 1. Mental clarity, the quiet brain's power. In constant company, our brain runs in social mode, scanning for cues, adjusting tone, managing impressions. It's mentally expensive. Solitude switches on the default mode network, the part of the brain linked to creativity, memory, and abstract thought. That's why breakthroughs often come in silence. When external input pauses, the mind organizes itself. Those who love solitude use this state intentionally. They sit in silence, walk without headphones, reflect without agenda, not because they're bored, but because they're filtering signal from noise. They understand that mental clarity isn't found in activity, but in attention, and solitude gives attention room to breathe. 2. Emotional regulation, solitude as an emotional detox. When we're constantly around others, we unconsciously absorb moods and stress. It's called emotional contagion. People who seek solitude step away not to disconnect, but to detox. They process emotions privately, sort through them, and return calmer, clearer. This builds interoceptive awareness, the ability to sense internal emotional states. That's why they rarely overreact. They've built an emotional buffer. Solitude becomes their reset button, a space to feel without distortion. 3. Self-dialogue, rewriting inner scripts. People who love being alone spend a lot of time thinking, sometimes too much. But the healthy form of that isn't rumination, it's reflection. They develop a habit of self-conversation, questioning assumptions, journaling thoughts, clarifying goals. This builds cognitive reappraisal, reframing situations logically before reacting emotionally. That's why they're not easily manipulated by trends or drama. Their decisions are filtered through thought, not impulse. Solitude is a mirror, one that doesn't lie. By spending time with their thoughts, they learn to become their own guide. 4. Creative depth, isolation breeds innovation. The link between solitude and creativity is ancient. When you're alone, the brain enters a free state where ideas combine naturally. Artists, writers, scientists often crave solitude because creativity needs deep focus and low external noise. This is flow, the optimal state where skill meets challenge and time dissolves. People who love being alone access flow easily because they're not afraid of boredom. They've learned to sit with it until it becomes curiosity. Every masterpiece, invention, or philosophy started as a quiet moment that grew roots. Those roots form when the mind isn't distracted, when it's allowed to wander deeply. 5. Discipline and flow, solitude as a training ground. Solitude is also the birthplace of self-discipline. When no one is watching, your actions reveal your true character. Those who thrive alone learn to structure time, manage focus, and motivate from within. This builds autonomous motivation, doing something because it aligns with your inner values, not external pressure. It's why many disciplined people like athletes, writers, monks, entrepreneurs embrace solitude. They know productivity without distraction is sacred. Solitude isn't just peace, it's power harnessed. Because every act of focus and silence compounds. Every hour alone builds mental stamina that noise can't shake. The hidden strength. When you see someone content in their own company, you're witnessing a rare balance. Independence without arrogance, depth without detachment, peace without passivity. They've mastered one of the hardest lessons, to stand still in a world addicted to movement. Their strength doesn't scream, it radiates quietly. Maybe solitude isn't something to escape. Maybe it's sacred, the forgotten art of returning to one's center. In a world obsessed with visibility, solitude is invisibility by choice. And in that choice lies freedom. The psychology of people who love being alone isn't about walls, it's about windows. They see inward to understand outward. They step back to move forward clearly. So if you ever crave silence, if you enjoy your own thoughts more than small talk, if you feel more alive in stillness than in crowds, don't apologize for it. It might mean your mind is tuned to a deeper frequency, one where meaning speaks softly and wisdom grows in quiet corners. Noise makes us aware of the world. Silence makes us aware of ourselves. And the greatest strength of all is learning when to listen to both. The strongest souls are forged in quiet rooms. If you've made it this far, chances are you understand solitude isn't loneliness, it's preparation. Because peace alone means little unless you know how to live from it. If you're ready to take that next step to turn calm into consistency and reflection into results, I've created a playlist for you. It's filled with simple, science-backed routines and habits that help you build discipline, focus, and flow, the kind of structure that supports your quiet strength. So, when this video ends, don't stop here. Check out the playlist. Take what you've learned today and start building it into your daily rhythm. Because solitude shapes the mind, but your routines shape the life that follows.